Jedi Knights. And hello, my friends. We're waiting for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet, but we have to wait for the tubes to connect before we get started because, as we know, sometimes the tubes can be a little bit cloggy, and we certainly don't want that to happen on a very important day when we've got Twitter Files 6 about to drop. And so we'll do it, and it's working, which means we can go ahead and get started. So let's go ahead and hit it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney at the R&R Law Group, located in the always beautiful and sunny Scottsdale, Arizona, where we love to help good people charged with crimes. And today, we're talking about subsidiaries. That's right, the word of the day is subsidiary, because Matt Taibbi came out and he dropped for us Twitter Files 6, and he's saying something that we all basically known, that the FBI was like this extension almost, or Twitter, you could argue, was an extension of the FBI, or the FBI was a subsidiary of Twitter, whatever it is. There is a disgusting commingling of government and private sector in a way that tramples all over our rights, in particular, our right to free speech, free association, whatever you want to call it. Big problems. And so we're going to get into all of that today. Of course, in our second segment, we're going to save that for the second segment because we have to get caught up on the Elon massacre that took place last night. But we are going to go through the full set of Twitter files. We have, of course, to refresh our recollection with the First Amendment so we can go back and just see what it says, because it's been some time since we've done that here. We also have to ask ourselves about this concept called state action. When does the government basically consume the private entity because they are acting upon it? When does private action become state action? When does Twitter censoring you become the federal government censoring you? We're going to learn about that case, and we'll have some more reaction before we dive into the full Twitter Files 6. But before we can talk about any of that, of course, there was a massacre that took place last night. And, you know, depending on the side of what team you're on, you know, it was kind of a lot of fun, or it was like a horrific nightmare. It was like the end of America all over again. Honestly, I don't know how these people can live with themselves. Every week or so, something is wrecking the country. But all right, so here we are. Elon is now, of course, taking over Twitter. There was a change to their policies. They said no doxing allowed. And then some, you know, so-called journalists actually did some doxing. And Elon said, oh, that's a big no-no. I told you, I warned you about this. Don't do that. And they did it anyways. So we've got questions about what they were doing, right? Was this free speech or was this illegal? I mean, what they were doing, was this actually within the terms of service or not? And of course, our friend Viva shared a fun video of Taylor Lorenz and the massive double standards that exist throughout the rest of the media. We also have the crybabies over at the New York Times. They're very upset about this. They are scrambling across the different newsrooms. You can see this story here. Newsroom scrambling. This journalist, he got suspended recently. The EU is contemplating sanctions. I mean, everybody's like melting down level 11 over this. Elon jumped into one of the Twitter spaces and actually answered some questions very briefly. He was in there for like 2 minutes. He said, all right, here, listen up, losers. You are no different than everybody else. All right, so stop putting yourself on a pedestal. You have the same rules that apply to you as everybody else does. And so we'll go through all of that before we see what Barry Weiss had to say and what yours truly had to say over on Twitter this afternoon. And so, as you can see, my friends, we have just a lot to get to today. And if you want to be a part of the program, the best place to do that, the best place to be, is over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, which is this address, as you can see right here. We have an amazing community chatting away over there. John McGarvey's in the house. I saw Bonnie was over there as well. We have Uncle Shane's here. I see Uncle Peaches, Georgia Peaches is here. Says, what a night. I'm like, Rob, I couldn't listen anymore to the lies. Yeah, it's been a pretty interesting evening. Uncle Shane says, Elon Musk has to be the most talked about person in the world. JC says, we need a music intro, man. We need to liven this place up with a little bit of, I don't know, death metal, maybe? Death metal today. We could, you know, I guess mix and match the music to the theme of the day. I don't know. So anyways, that's the amazing community. We stick around for an after party. We do morning members only streams. And so come on, check us out at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. But all right, my friends, without any further ado, let's get right into the story that was percolating today before the Twitter files dropped. And so we'll hit both of those starting now. The Elon Musk massacre causing a lot of ripples throughout the media waves. And you can see they're very upset about this. They're scrambling and they're trying to figure out what to do about Elon taking control over their platform where they used to go for all sorts of distribution. But Elon is responding. He jumped into a Twitter space. Newsrooms are talking about sanctions, and so is the European Union. And all of that is coming about because Elon threw a bunch of so-called journalists off the platform. And so you have seen that, right? A lot of crying and wailing, caterwauling. Oh, you know, they were very, very okay with throwing other people off the platform. In fact, they were okay with throwing you off of Twitter, off of Facebook, off of Google, off of banking. They were okay throwing you out of your mother's house. If they could do that, they would do it. And they are now very upset that they got a little bit of a backhand. So how did this all start? Well, Elon shared some of the saga with us when he was on Twitter. He said a couple days ago on December 14th, he said, anybody recognize this car? Right. And this guy was apparently chasing down Elon's family's vehicle. They got the car, 17 million views on this video. Just so we know what it sounded like, this is the actual video.
Yeah, for sure. Gotcha.
What's your name?
Got the license plate.
No.
All right, so that guy, right, with his mask and his glove and his hand sanitizer and whatever else that green thing is there, he's driving around harassing Elon. And evidently he got the location because of Twitter, because somebody was following his plane. And there was a Twitter account called Elon Jet that was literally scraping the FAA data and republishing it. Well, the problem with that is that even though that data is public, Elon evidently went one step further and secured his FAA call sign. So he got a special call sign that's a private call sign, so that can't happen anymore. Well, what happened was the individual who programmed the automatic bot to scrape the data and report on Elon's takeoffs and landings, he was able to figure out another way to scrape the data and to correlate Elon's location with this new private ID, which was not legal. So Elon, on December 14th, he was pretty unequivocal about this. He said any account doxing real-time location info of anyone will be suspended. There you go, any account. He didn't say except for journalists, right? As it is a physical safety violation. This includes posting links with real-time location info, right? So even if you don't post it on Twitter, like the Elon Jet account was literally posting his location. He landed at LAX. He took off from LAX. He landed back in Austin, right? And I even think I followed that account. But he is saying it's not just that. If you link, like, so say Elon Jet goes off of Twitter, right? He goes off to, Mastodon or wherever it is these weirdos are going now. They are all hanging out over there. So if he goes over there and posts it and somebody posts a Mastodon link to the data, that will also get you banned, right? And so a lot of journalists were out there and they were sitting around. They were like, well, we're writing articles because we're journalists and we can include his tracking GPS assassination coordinates if we want to, because we work for the New York Times and we are the country's paper of record. And they just sit here, just typing away, oh yeah, just as beautiful. And they publish their stupid articles. And then Elon says, I already told you, idiots, don't link out to my physical location or anybody's location. This includes posting links. Posting locations someone traveled on a slightly delayed basis isn't a safety problem, so is okay. Last night, a car carrying Lil X, I guess this is his kid's name, in LA was followed by a crazy stalker thinking it was me, later blocked the car, moved, and climbed onto the hood. Legal action being taken against Sweeney, which is the guy who actually created the Elon Jet account, and organizations who supported harm to my family, right? So Elon sounds pissed, as you can imagine. If somebody was coming after your son or daughter, I'd imagine you would feel the same way. So this guy, as people are pointing out, right, sort of looks like Antifa, looks like he's actually trying to be menacing, right? This isn't like, whoa, go, like I'm a crazy person or something happened or I thought that you maybe cut me off. This is like, yeah, this dude looks like he's on a mission, right? He's all suited up. He's got his phone out. He's like, oh, there's Elon. I'm going to go take him out because he's wrecking Twitter or whatever. But that's the backstory on this. And so it was pretty unequivocal, right? It's pretty clear what that looks like. And so Elon just tossed a bunch of people off, right? Aaron Rupar's gone and a bunch of other people. Okay. Not too much of value was lost, to be honest. Now, was it heavy-handed? Yeah. Did they get warnings? Kind of, right? I mean, they kind of got a warning, like they got a tweet about it. But, I'm a big fan of warnings, right? We've been suspended here multiple times without warnings, and we tried to follow the rules. And if they would have given us a warning, I would have accommodated the rules, right? We try to do that here. For the stuff that we can't talk about on free speech, censorship, trash platforms, we go elsewhere, right? So we try to comply with the rules. And I think that other people probably wouldn't have tweeted that link if they would have known it would have nuked their accounts, or maybe they would have, or maybe they thought that they were escaping it. Who knows? But the point is, it wasn't just public data that was being republished, right? And not that I think you even need to go this far. I think an anti-doxing policy is perfectly within reason, because you have to think about, right? All speech is not protected, right? You can't incite violence that has imminent and direct violent tendencies, that the person speaks with intention to cause violence and what the crowd receives understanding it's meant to cause violence, sort of an objective and a subjective test. You can't say those things. But doxing somebody is not quite that, but it is a pretty close cousin, right? I mean, it's sort of like, why do you need that data? You're going to go harass them or like protest them? There's other ways to protest Elon. Show up at Twitter headquarters, show up at Tesla headquarters, show up anywhere you want. You don't necessarily need to know where he is geographically. So, but the point is, right, I think that, anti-doxing is a close cousin to anti-incitement, and both of those have already been dictated and communicated, or at least the incitement case has been already mulled over many times by the United States Supreme Court. So we have a framework there. That being said, setting that aside, what it sounds like this kid was doing, you can see here this screenshot is from Jack Sweeney, and he says, yeah, so the PIA ICIO, which is the tracking number of the plane, it can be changed monthly, right? So Elon's tracking number is swapping around, so they can't track him. But even then, he says it's relatively easy to identify. Like I still know what the plane is. Like I still know where it's coming from and where it's going, and he has a pretty predictable route. And so he says, I actually can write software to identify it, actually. I don't even need the number, essentially, right? Software can do it all automatically, and then he can continue to post about it. So he's not even concerned. But David Sachs, who is a very accomplished individual who also is a bestie on the All In podcast, very good follow and commentator, says, so the FAA gives Elon a new plane identifier called the ICAO every month because of threats to his safety. But Sweeney wrote software to hack that privacy to continue to dox him. How is it legal? Elon says, guess what? It isn't, right? You're not supposed to be trying to circumvent that stuff. And of course, that kid was doing it. So a lot of questions about the legality, a lot of questions about the sort of the context surrounding the suspensions, whether the journalists wanted to actually, break the rules. Like if these were journalists who were spiking the football, if Aaron Rupar says, oh, well, we can't post his bot, well, then I guess we'll just go ahead and post his links this way, right? We'll go do this or that or the other thing. And so if you're intentionally crossing the red line, it's like you're playing with fire, you're going to get burned. As many have said, FAFO, right, is what Elon and others have hinted at. So there's a new Twitter thread, which of course we will get to. But I wanted to see if there was any more activity from Elon on this. Elon has said that the post, basically, these people are not going to be permanently suspended, right? They got suspended. He's debating whether to bring them back now. Many people have been brought back now, but the others are still suspended. So we'll have to wait and see. But the point is, right, they all sort of knew what was going on, and they were having a difficult time complying with the rules. Now, we'll jump into a Twitter space. Elon clarified some of this in a Twitter space in a minute. But first, I want to share with you this tremendous tweet from our friend Viva, who's over at vivabarneslaw.locals.com, right next door to watchingthewatchers.locals.com, also on Twitter at thevivafry.com, at thevivafry on Twitter, rather. He says, I'm old enough to remember when blue checkmark lefty journalists pretended to care about doxing. He says now it's all about their, quote, free speech to do unto others what they don't want others doing unto them. Man, I told you, it's a fiery tweeter over there. I don't know what he's doing. Vitamins over there. But he posted this. This is Taylor Lorenz crying from I don't know where she's sitting, but she's very upset about this because she got doxxed, and you remember what an absolute catastrophe this was. And again, I don't support harassment. I don't want people getting harassed. I don't want to be harassed. I don't want you to be harassed. I don't want Taylor Lorenz to be harassed. But we have different definitions of what harassment is. Okay, like using an improper term that might be triggering is not exactly harassment. Saying that you have a different opinion about COVID, about the war, about anything is not disinformation, threatening, harassment, and the like. But anyways, this is her very much invoking the free speech and all of the concerns that many of them will throw out when Elon Musk invokes them.
Then also you'll see there's many people that are tweeting.
Very loud.
You know, these are Taylor Lorenz's loved ones.
They have
everyone.
photos. Wow, these are all photos of your family members.
Yeah.
Photos.
Yeah. They'll threaten children.
Yeah, they will. Like Elon's. I mean, they literally, like Antifa, like or whatever that guy was, like literally came up to Elon's car. She's dead right.
They'll threaten my parents. I've had to remove every single social tie. I had severe PTSD from this. I contemplated suicide. It got really bad.
That's not good. I don't want anybody feeling that way.
You feel like any little piece of information that gets out on you will be used by the worst people on the internet to destroy your life. And it's so isolating.
Yeah.
And terrifying.
It's horrifying. I'm so sorry. It's overwhelming. It's really hard.
Somebody have some tissues. I'm crying with laughter over here. Somebody get me some tissues. I'm crying. All right. So you can see, absolutely hilarious. Shout out to the Viva who is, dropping those very nice memories for all of our enjoyment. But that's what's going on over there. And of course, there's a lot more to get to. We're going to check in with Elon Musk and his reaction to all of this on a recent Twitter space. We've got the newsrooms scrambling. This guy actually got suspended for some of his statements against Elon. And we've got the EU that's talking about sanctions against Elon because they are, so offended. They weren't offended when they nuked Donald Trump. No sanctions for that one. But when they nuke their New York Times journos, then everything turns to catastrophe. So we'll get into all of that. First, let's say thank you very much to our sponsors over at 4Patriots. As we've talked about, if you're waiting for a Christmas gift, if you don't know what to get, there's nothing better to put under the Christmas tree than a nice box of survival. My friends, a food shortage could be coming. Even in the United States, experts have written about this as recently as July. Drought, inflation, even new policies are pushing America's food supply near its breaking point. That's why survival food is more important now than ever. And you can create your own stockpile of the best-selling 4Patriot survival food kits ever. This is not ordinary food. We're talking about good for 25 years super survival food, hand-packed right in family-owned facilities in the United States, giving jobs to over 200 Americans. The kits are compact, they're sturdy, they're water-resistant, and they stack easily. They have different delicious breakfast, lunches, and dinners, and you can make these meals in less than 20 minutes. Just add boiling water, simmer, and serve. And right now, you can go to 4patriots.com. Use code Robert to get 10% off your first purchase on anything in the store, including this 3-month survival kit. You'll get their famous guarantee for an entire year after your order, plus free shipping on orders over $97. They're called 4Patriots because a portion of every sale is donated to charities who support our veterans and their families. Go to 4patriots.com. Use code Robert to get 10% off. That's 4patriots.com. Use code Robert. Start building your own stockpile today. That's right. Get that food under the Christmas tree or whatever it is you're celebrating so that we don't have anybody starving to death out there. All right. And so we've got a lot more to get to. I want to go back into this. This is bouncing all over the place today. Let's do a refresh and see what's happening here. Yeah. All right. So we're going to pop this open. We're going over to Elon and his Twitter space. But first, let's get some reaction from the New York Times. The New York Times is very upset about this because they know that they've got distribution that needs to be done on Twitter. And if they don't have access to that, they're in big trouble. But they write, they say, Musk really stepped in at this time, boys. He is facing growing anger over a Twitter ban of journalists. Is he facing growing anger? I was sort of doing cartwheels, but okay. Elon faced a growing backlash on Friday from lawmakers. That's weird. Where was this backlash when they threw Trump off? On both sides of the Atlantic, threats of fines and sanctions after Twitter suspended the account of at least 8 journalists, so-called, on Thursday without warning. He actually gave him warning, though. That was on the 14th. He said, don't post docs. Don't post links. The suspended accounts, including Ryan Mack, New York Times, Donnie O'Sullivan, CNN, Drew Harwell, The Washington Post. Unclear what the suspensions had in common. Also not true, lying New York Times. We all know what it was. It was they posted links to Elon's physical location. They write, the silencing of prominent voices could raise the regulatory heat on Twitter because that's all they have. They can't compete in the private sector. They have to go commandeer other people's products, like the FBI has done, as we'll find out. and possibly Musk's other companies. So because he enforced the terms of service, they're going to now regulate him to death, including Tesla and SpaceX, which is a big recipient of government funding and projects. It could hurt his push to get reluctant advertisers back on the platform. The action set off a wave of protests. News organizations, including Times and CNN, have demanded that Musk explain his rationale. You will answer to us. Supporters of the journalists argued on Twitter that the move was overly punitive. And I can understand that. Like I'm a fan of the warnings, sure. But they didn't do that to a lot of us. We got thrown off Discord immediately. On YouTube, you get one warning and then you're gone. No more warnings after that. So we've been struck 3 times in addition to the warning. There are red lines and sanctions soon, she tweeted. Somebody on a Friday tweeted this today. Who posted this? Vera, who is working over at the EU, said news about arbitrary suspension is worrying. The EU's Digital Service Act requires the respect of media freedom and fundamental rights. Well, what about our fundamental rights? What did Twitter do for the last several years that was trampling all over us? This is reinforced under our act. Elon should be aware of that. There are red lines and sanctions. All right, so you can see, right? These people are petrified that they lost control of the town square, and they're going to do whatever they can to get it back. The recently ratified Digital Services Act serves as a kind of rule book on moderating content. 6% of revenue carries with it a fine. A Democrat out of Massachusetts, member of the House Electronics Committee, also expressed dismay. She tweeted as well. All these people are tweeting, right? They're all upset. They're all on Elon's company. Maybe he should let them on there. You know, oh, you don't like it? Get the hell out of here. Why don't you go join everybody over at Parler when you said that you should just go start your own platform and then threw them off the internet too? Yeah. All right. So you see, this is the New York Times, right? And they're, of course, going to be very New York Timesy. And they're going to be, we're very upset about this. Elon, you're going to be in big, big trouble. And the EU's coming after you. And Democrats out of Massachusetts are coming after you and so on. So Elon then hopped on a Twitter space. And he's sort of getting raked over the coals on this one. I don't see it that way at all. Elon Musk, seen here in this Twitter space, is communicating with a bunch of journalists who are trying to save Ryan Mac, hashtag MacPack. So it's a bunch of people who go, Ryan Mac shouldn't have been suspended. Save Ryan Mac. And they're dragging themselves in here to form this committee to demand Elon bring them back. But Elon jumps into this space, and here's what he says.
Well, as I'm sure everyone who's been doxed would agree, showing real-time information about somebody's location is inappropriate, and I think everyone on this call would not like that to be done to them.
True.
And there's not going to be any distinction in the future between journalists, so-called journalists, and regular people. Everyone's going to be treated the same. You're not special because you're a journalist.
You're not special.
You're a Twitter. You're a citizen. So no special treatment. You dox, you get suspended. End of story.
That's it. Now you see Katie somebody is about to jump in, and they're going to bring in another person who was actually suspended, and they're going to say, well, I was suspended for this and it wasn't doxing and so on.
And ban evasion or trying to be clever about it. Like, oh, I posted a link to the real-time information is obviously that is obviously simply trying to evade the meaning. That is, there's no different than actually showing real-time information.
So when you're saying posting a link to it, I mean, some of the people like Drew and Ryan Mack from the New York Times who were banned were they were reporting on it in the course of sort of pretty normal journalistic endeavors.
Totally innocent.
You consider that like?
I mean, we were just writing stories about this. Like, I was just copying, pasting from him, and he was copying, pasting from him, and we were just saying, that Elon is a total free speech Nazi now because of this personal doxing policy. So we were all talking a bunch of garbage from you. It's our ordinary course of reporting, and we were all very sneaky, right? Extending links back over to other sources. And Elon says, no, you're not immune from that. Don't wrap yourself up in that and try to escape the terms of service.
A tricky attempt at ban evasion?
You show the link to the real-time information, ban evasion, obviously.
There you go.
Drew, I don't think you were posting the real-time information,
Drew
right?
Here.
I mean, you're suggesting that we're sharing your address, which is not true.
That's not what he's suggesting. He never said that at all. He said posting real-time location information. That can include flights and all sorts of other things.
And you're suggesting that we're posting And we never, I never posted your address.
You posted a link to the address.
There you go.
We posted a link. In the course of reporting about Elon Jet, we posted links to Elon Jet, which are now not online and now banned on Twitter. And Twitter also, of course, marks even the Instagram and Mastodon accounts of Elon Jet as harmful. Using, we have to acknowledge, using the same exact link blocking technique that you have criticized as part of the Hunter Biden New York Post story in 20.
Oh, give me a break. It's a totally different situation. The New York Times story with Hunter Biden was fakely censored because they called it hacked materials. It wasn't that at all. It wasn't Hunter Biden's location. It's a whole different policy. He's saying, yes, the same technology, right? You blocked it, right? Because that's what Twitter built in, evidently, to protect their platform. They just said, oh, you add this link into the block box and it blocks out every single tweet, every single thing. He used the same technology, except he just put in Elon Jet instead of Hunter Biden's laptop. And he's saying it's the same. Yeah, sure. It's the same technology. It's the same ultimate effect, right? That story is no longer allowed on Twitter, but the justification is different. The justification in this case is that this speech has no utility at all. What is the utility in showing where Elon lands so that Antifa psychopaths can go and attack his kids? No, there's no utility in that. So when we do our free speech analysis in the real world, not in New York Timesville, we ask ourselves about that. What is the utility of the speech? There is none here. The utility, when it comes to attacking Elon or knowing the doxing location, there's very little utility. I can understand like a protest utility, or why like an investor might want to know what Elon is doing and stuff like that, right? But the balance of the potential harms, the balance versus the utility of the free speech, it's not even close. There's really, it's not even, I think, within debate, right? It's a close cousin to incitement, and Elon has made the decision that that's what happened. Now, to conflate that with this Hunter Biden story is also totally dishonest. The Hunter Biden story has a ton of utility. It was about the candidate for president's son in the months right up to an election. Everybody wanted to know about it. Everybody needed to know about it. But what they did is they censored it not because of doxing. That's not the thing. They didn't say that at all. None of those tweets got the doxing excommunication violation. No, they were because it made their candidate look bad. And so they came up with different justifications to ban James Wood. They even dumped Kayleigh McEnany, Trump's press secretary, for the whole thing. So this Drew person, whoever this dishonest individual is trying to sort of skewer Elon on this and say, well, you just did the same thing that Twitter did before. Not true at all. They didn't do that at all. It's a whole different policy, but they're trying to rub his face in it. They know what they did. They know better, right? They played with fire. They got burned.
Using the same exact link blocking technique that you have criticized as part of the Hunter Biden New York Post story in 2020. So what is different here and there?
No more acceptable for me. It's no more acceptable for me, for you, than it is for me. It's the same thing. So anyway.
So it's unacceptable what you're doing?
No. What you dox, you get suspended. End of story. That's it.
Elon.
Bye. Elon jumped out of the chat. He's out. See you guys. We're done. You doxed, you get suspended. There's not much else to say about this. And so if you got any issues with that, I guess take it up with your own social media company. Good luck. Now, other newsrooms are scrambling. This guy evidently got suspended. This story broke over from Max Tanney over at Semaphore. And he's telling us sort of a inside baseball with the media. Posted this on December 16th. He says, newsrooms are scrambling to counter Elon Musk's bans. They're freaked out about this. They're jumping all over the place. Twitter suspended a bunch of people, including Keith Olbermann, who went on his dog's account. The news organizations are now considering a range of options to respond. All right, so they're all like in panic mode because they know big time that this is not going to be good for them. If they don't have Twitter as a distribution platform, they're going to be hurting in ways that they can't even fathom. And in fact, I had a tweet about this. Here's what I said earlier today. I said, Twitter is a necessary lubricant for the antiquated gears of the old news media, right? The old news doesn't have distribution. They don't have social media. Without distribution, their copy and paste stories stay on their homepage, and the New York Times journos need Twitter more than Twitter needs the New York Times. People like this Tyrant fella are saying that the Twitter needs the New York Times more than the New York Times needs Twitter. I don't agree with that at all. I think that it's a lubricant. it makes the entire media ecosystem continue to work. And if they can't post their stories out there, then they're going to be in big trouble. And so what are they doing? They're scrambling. They don't know what to do. They're considering a range of options to respond. People familiar with the conversations have told him. They range from pulling coverage from Twitter, right, taking the whole entity off the platform, as CBS News did briefly in November, to retaliating against Twitter's advertising business. CNN executives have discussed whether their corporate partner, Warner Media Discovery, would stop advertising on the platform. News orgs have also discussed dropping out the Amplify program, in which they post videos to Twitter and share in the revenue, or simply asking their staffers to stop contributing to the surface. Just get off there. NBC News had already benched one of its journos, who reportedly was on Twitter, had harshly critical views of Musk. They temporarily suspended this guy called Ben Collins from covering Musk on the airwaves. According to two sources, the new network told Collins earlier this month that his criticism of Musk, which included comments about how the billionaire was purposefully trying to destroy Twitter, was not editorially appropriate. He continued to tweet about those reports, and they released a statement on Thursday calling the move questionable and unfortunate, they said. Wow, brilliant. I wonder how many writers it took to come up with those three words. And they called for the tech company to offer an explanation of the suspension. Privately on Friday, the paper's leadership asked staff not to fight with Musk on Twitter. Yeah, good call. Meanwhile, the news org aren't sure whom to call to mediate the conflict. Yeah, isn't that a problem? You know, it would be nice if we could just have a nice set of uniform terms and that we had some trust in this space, but unfortunately, nobody trusts the media. CNN staffer told Semaphore that network executives scrambled last night to reach Twitter after O'Sullivan was suspended. But almost all of the network's previous contacts at the company had been fired. Sorry, can't pick up the phone. They're like, should we call our Twitter rep? Oh, man, Ligma's not there anymore. You know, it's a big problem. Musk said that some received a 7-day suspension for doxing him by sharing publicly available information about his plane. All of that is, of course, true, as we just documented. So they're freaked out. They don't know what to do about it. And this is what this guy, I think this is Ben Collins. Ben Collins. I'm not sure who this is. Let's see if they give us a name. But this was some journo on MSNBC who is talking about Elon Musk, and he's very emotional.
Pizzagate, cabal style stuff. The idea that the world is secretly run by this new world order, and it is trying to censor you. It's trying to prevent the world from seeing what's really going on. And that Nancy Pelosi and people like that, those people in the QAnon spaces right now, those people are at the top of that sphere. They are at the top of that pecking order when it comes to how people believe in conspiracy theories. And I do want to stress this. Right now, trending on Twitter is the lie about this guy. It's the lie that...
It's trending.
It's trending on Twitter as we speak because Elon Musk pushed it on Saturday.
I think he's talking about the Paul Pelosi meme.
I just want to make it clear how they got to this place. So, first of all, lies on the internet move faster than the truth. And that's in part why there are all these safeguards that Elon Musk is trying to take down on Twitter right now. The lies that...
They're not safeguards, right? These are misinformation filters. Guess who gets to define what misinformation is? Well, we're going to learn about it in the next Twitter files. And he says that specifically, the removal of the safeguards is going to cause more harm, when we all recognize that the safeguards were not there to prevent harm at all. They were there to prevent one political party for gaining an advantage in this country.
Were from bad pieces of information they found. For example, they said that Paul Pelosi was in his underwear. Of course he was, 2:30 in the morning at the time he was attacked. That led them to believe this was a lover's quarrel between two different people that knew each other. The reason they believed they knew each other is because the police put out a statement saying that they didn't really know who opened the door. So that led them to believe there was a third person in the house. Mm-hmm. So from there was this world building on the pro-Trump internet, as in the internet, authoritarian history. But I've read Hannah Arendt. I've read all of these people. Mm-hmm. This is how it gets really bad.
Oh, man.
This is the start of something that gets really, really bad.
Oh, man, you're kidding.
If you are getting the guardrails off the truth, where it literally cannot catch up to the lies on the internet because of how the pipes work, how the system works, because of the incentives of the richest people in the world, then that's how you lose your democracy.
Yeah, we're going to lose our democracy. So guys like him and the MSNBC goons should all just be censoring us even harder. Censor us harder so we can be freer, please. So we saw that the EU is also threatening Elon Musk, right? The threats are not going to stop. They are here. We've got Vera Jouarova, who you heard about a little bit. She says the arbitrary suspension is worrying. Twitter suspended people. She says that the EU law requires respect of the media, freedom, and fundamental rights. Says there are red lines, and it's all coming soon. So the account Elon Jet, which previously tracked Elon, was suspended. And of course, all of the government bureaucrats, they know, right? They know, man. They said, uh-oh, we need Twitter. We get a lot of money from Twitter. We have to post whatever we want. We're able to shut our critics up on Twitter. And now we don't control it. So how do we get that back? Well, they're going to use the strong arm of the government to attempt to do it. So we'll see how that works out for them. Of course, we'll continue to support Elon as he wages this battle for free speech. And I hope you join us as we do. Thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. And we look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right. And so before we jump into the full thread on the Twitter files, we have to talk quickly about the, well, I got a super chat that came in. That's what I want to talk about quickly. That came in from a Rumble rant. What the heck did I do with it? There it is. He says, sorry, Rob, but why do you need that data? Sounds a lot like, scrolling all over the screen here, there it is. He says, sorry, Rob, but why do you need that data? Sounds an awful lot like, why do you need an AR-15 to me? So I think your point, Just Revere, is commenting on when I said, why do you need that data for Elon? Like, why would anybody need that data about Elon? You know, it's sort of like, you're more of an informational, free speech person. Sounds a lot like, why do you need an AR-15 to me, right? And so I can understand that. They make a lot of decisions for us, right? The government makes decisions for us about why you might need something or not need something. I understand that criticism. That, I know what I need better than some other person does. The thing with Elon and the thing with doxing, and the thing with that type of data, right? There's all sorts of information that we protect. Like, we don't give out our social security numbers and stuff like that normally, right? You want to keep certain data information, and the government has to keep information protected. And so I think that there's precedent for that. I think that, with Elon and with some of these doxing things, there's a really big problem with the law of big numbers that exists here. So, one example, right? If you have 120 million followers and you have, just run the math yourself. Like, how many people in your life do you think might actually be physically dangerous to you? How many people have you come across? Is it like 1 out of 100? Is it 1 out of 10 when you're walking around meeting random strangers? 1 out of 10? No, that's too high. Is it 1 out of 100 who's kind of like, maybe unwell? Is it 1 out of 1,000 who you might feel really like concerned about? Is it 1 out of 1,000,000? Maybe it's 1 out of 1,000,000 who might actually like show up and murder you. Okay, Elon has 120 of those people. All right? It's just the law of big numbers. So, Elon's not waiting around to get his plane blown out of the sky and then Congress to act on this and say, well, we'll just suddenly, oh gosh, wow, a billionaire's plane exploded. So we better go and actually stop the plane doxing, right? They're not going to do that. And Elon's not going to wait around for them to do that, nor should he. So we'll see. Now, I understand your point, Revere. Like, I understand it. I don't like people telling me what I need and what I don't need either. Who needs an AR-15? What did you say to me, punk? Yeah, I feel you on that one. All right, so let's just get right into this. We have the big drop of the day. Twitter Files 6 released. Matt Taibbi dropping them, and the word of the day is subsidiary. One of the first phrases he uses is calling the FBI a subsidiary of Twitter due to their censorship. You can see the tweet right here from Matt Taibbi himself, at Matt Taibbi, calling it the thread. Twitter Files Part 6, the FBI subsidiary. And so we're going to go through this, right? There's a lot to unpack here, but I want to lay foundation very quickly because I know we're very antsy to get to it. First, I want to talk about the First Amendment. A lot of people forget about how this works. You can see it here right on the screen, and it tells us, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, right? And the first phrase here is Congress. Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble. And to petition the government for a redress of grievances. We're familiar with this. What you'll notice is it says Congress shall make no law. It doesn't say Twitter shall make no law or nobody shall be prohibited from this. It just says Congress shall make no law, right? That's it. So it doesn't say really anything about Twitter. So why can't Twitter just do whatever the heck it wants? And why should there be some distance between Congress and the private sector? Why doesn't it just say nobody shall make any law or do anything respecting the establishment of free speech? Well, it's because we want some separation. We want free speech. We want to give the private people, right, some liberty, and we just want to restrain the government. The Constitution is to restrain a big, disgusting government because they knew what was going to happen, and here we are. So Congress can't do anything like that. All right. But what does that mean, though? Does that mean Twitter can do whatever it wants? Well, not unless it's doing it entirely privately. I want to go through this very quickly again, which is the state action requirement. The state action requirement is a constitutional concept. It refers to the requirement that in order for somebody to have standing, the plaintiff must demonstrate that the government was responsible for the violation. Okay, that the government did something. This is why if Twitter were acting purely privately, there would be no claim. But if the government's highly involved, then it's really becoming a government actor. It's not a private actor. Supreme Court came out and said, look, in 1991 in a case called Edmondson, they said, quote, although the conduct of private parties, right, like a private company, lies beyond the Constitution's scope in most instances, government authority may dominate an activity to such an extent that its participants must be deemed to act within the authority of the government. Okay, in other words, if the government is putting its big, disgusting boot on your neck to get you to censor something, are you a private actor at that point, or are you just an extension of the government? If the FBI comes to you and says, we think it's a very good idea you do this thing, and you're sitting there working at Twitter, do you think that you have the capacity, the strength to tell the FBI to shove off and get the heck out of your company? No, you don't. You go, okay, well, I guess we'll do what you say now. So if that happens, if they are deemed to be dominated by the authority of the government, and as a result, that makes the entity, the private entity, subject to constitutional constraints. That means that they are bound by the same protections that we all enjoy through the First Amendment, because it's the government acting. It's not Twitter acting, is the theory. And so let's go back over to Matt Taibbi's Twitter files now that we know what the First Amendment says and what state action are. We have to ask ourselves, was what the FBI is doing as a subsidiary of Twitter, was that state action that makes it actionable? Can a United States citizen who had their free speech rights dumped all over go and do something about this? Or can attorney generals do something about this? You would ask yourself, was this state action by the FBI onto the company of Twitter? Taibbi says, the Twitter files are revealing more and more every day about how the government collects, analyzes, and flags your social media content. Not Twitter, the government. Twitter's contact with the FBI was constant and pervasive, as if it were a subsidiary, as though the FBI was like an agency within the operation of Twitter itself. And up until this point in these Twitter files, we've covered all of them. A big complaint was that Twitter and the Twitter files didn't have evidence of government interference and government collusion. That's going to be blown out of the water here today. Between January 2020 and November 2022, there were over 150 emails, 150, between the FBI and former Twitter trust and safety chief Yoel Roth. It's a lot of emails over 2 years. Some are mundane, like San Francisco agent Elvis Chan, who was just deposed in the lawsuit from Missouri, wishing Roth a Happy New Year. Happy New Year! Along with a reminder to attend our quarterly call next week. So it wasn't just a reminder, it was you're wanted at an FBI meeting. Others are requests for information into Twitter users related to active investigations. So they're sending Christmas cards, and they're also sending censorship requests. But Matt says a surprisingly high number of requests are requests by the FBI for Twitter to take action. What? On election misinformation, even involving joke tweets from low follower accounts. The FBI's social media focused task force, it's an actual organization called the FTIF, FTIF. It was created in the wake of the 2016 election, as a lot of things were. Twitter created a whole new election misinformation section. So did Facebook and Google and YouTube. Everybody freaked out. They weren't concerned about Russian collusion. No, they were concerned about Donald Trump winning. They did not want that to happen again. And so they needed to install guardrails in order to stop it. And they did that. They all came up with their election integrity policies and so on. It swelled. The FBI did the same thing. They now suddenly needed a social media task force after Trump wins. Convenient. So it swells up to 80 agents, and it corresponded with Twitter to identify alleged foreign influence and election tampering of all kinds. Federal intelligence and law enforcement, they reach into Twitter, and that included not just FBI, but also the Department of Homeland Security, which partnered with security contractors and think tanks to pressure Twitter to moderate content. State action. When does the government become so dominating, so pressuring, that it becomes an act of the government? In this case, they wanted pressure on moderation. Matt says, it's no secret that the government analyzes bulk data of all sorts for all purposes. Shout out to Edward Snowden. Everything from tracking terror suspects to making economic forecasts to looking at your private messages. Taibbi says that the Twitter files show something new, though, that we haven't seen before. Agencies like the FBI and DHS, Homeland Security, regularly sending social media content to Twitter through multiple entry points, pre-flagged for moderation. All right, so you've got guys like Strzok and Page, and they're on Twitter, and they're like, oh, I'm so offended by this tweet. Maybe I can send that over to Elvis Chan. And maybe Elvis Chan, who's in San Francisco, can tell Twitter to nuke it. Matt says what stands out is the sheer quantity of reports from the government. Some are aggregated from public hotlines. So you know that phone number that you get from the FBI Twitter account, FBI El Paso. They posted this November 3rd, day of the election. They said election day protocol is to stand up in a command post center to identify centralized threats. Look at these people. No, you're not. We're going to see. They're flagging jokes. Okay. So just to make sure you understand what your FBI is doing, here's what they're telling you they're doing. They write this, an FBI agent who's, in his black sunglasses and his wind-up vest. He says, election day protocol for FBI headquarters. Our protocol is to stand up a national election command post, which provides centralized location for assessing election-related threats. Status reports and complaints are tracked. Have a tip? Send it to the tips.fbi.gov or call us at this office. Protect your voice and protect your vote. Okay, wow, that sounds like it's very powerful. A lot of important things are going on over there. They've got a command post. Wow, okay. So let's see what they're actually doing, flagging these messages from these calls that come into 915. An unanswered question from Matt says, do agencies like the FBI and the DHS do in-house flagging themselves, or do they farm this crap out? He says, one former intelligence officer wrote, you have to prove to me that inside the effing government, you can do any kind of massive data or AI search, right? He's saying the government is incompetent. We can't do this stuff ourselves, right? They don't have any systems. They don't have good computer programmers. All this stuff is contracted out, right? The CIA don't they host their servers like in Amazon's servers or something, right? They can't even figure it out because they're so dumb and bureaucratic. They have to use the private sector. So they do. So this guy says, I don't think they even do it. So in other words, this means that they're farming it out to another entity. So it goes from Twitter to Facebook to Google, all of them. They've got all your data. But the FBI is contracting with other third parties whom we know nothing about, who are probably, unregulated. Nobody has any idea who they are. They're probably unaccountable. They send all this crap back over to the FBI, and the FBI just says, oh, we'll just take it for what you say it is, and we'll just send it right over to Twitter, and they'll just do whatever they want with it. So this is where we see there's a problem. Taibbi says, hello, Twitter contacts is the email. The master canine quality of the FBI's relationship to Twitter comes through in this November 22nd email, in which the FBI San Francisco is notifying you that it wants action on 4 accounts. That's this year. This email comes from somebody at FBI.gov. It says on November 10th at 10:53 p.m., it says, hello, Twitter contacts. And you see the person who signed off on this, his name is Fred. Who the hell is that? What's his last name? Is he an FBI agent? It says FBI SF. Best regards from Fred. I want to know who Fred is. And they write, hello, Twitter contacts. FBI San Francisco is notifying you of the below accounts, which may potentially constitute violations of our terms of service for any action or inaction deemed appropriate within the Twitter policy. They flagged Jonathan Wade from MA. Mad and Pissed Off is on here, along with Malt_Thomas, all on here. From the FBI, from FBI.gov. It is literally the government saying, remove these accounts. May potentially constitute the violation. All right. So what does Twitter do? In that case, the Twitter employees, they went on, says Matt, to look for reasons to suspend all four, including from MA, whose tweets are almost all jokes, okay, including his civic misinformation tweet. Said the following. This came in from blank, blank, blank at twitter.com regarding the escalation and the TOS violations. November 10th, 3:12 p.m. FBI folks. From Patrick, he says, I've already reviewed this from the TD perspective, and I suspended 3 of the accounts for multiple abuse and ban evasion violations. But Rodrigo, could you please remove from MA for possible civic misinformation or direct to the appropriate party for their review? In other words, I was able to get rid of 3 of these for the FBI. The other one is mostly just jokes, though, and I can't do anything about that. Can you find another reason to do it? And they did, right? These were the jokes. These were the jokes that were being put out there. Said, I want to remind Republicans to vote tomorrow on Wednesday rather than on Tuesday. Okay, it's a joke. A lot of people were making these jokes. It's not even that funny, but a lot of people were doing it. I want to, because the voting is on Tuesday. That's the punchline. Sorry, right? The punchline's on Tuesday. So you got to go vote on Tuesday. If you vote on Wednesday, you missed it. Dang it. I guess I'm not going to be able to vote for my candidate. So clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right says, I want to remind Republicans that the vote's tomorrow. Okay. That's a suspension? What? He also posted this, a proposed container ship if there's a worldwide recession. It's a joke. So you're going to nuke that guy? For what? Matt continues. He says, just to show the FBI that it can be hyper intrusive in both directions, they also asked Twitter to review a blue-leaning account for a different joke, except here it was more obvious that it was Claire Foster, PhD, who's actually got a pretty decent account, who calls herself an anti-extremist and a Mao centrist. And she's a board-certified astrologist. Wow. And her IQ is in here, by the way. Is this a real account? Her IQ is in here. And it's a Clinton Harris 2024. This can't be real. This has to be a parody account. Okay, yeah, it has to be a parody account. All right, so Dr. Foster says free airport luggage is a fundamental human right. Right. Okay. Yeah. All right. It's hard to tell, man. I can't tell if this is a real person or not. This confirms that she's probably actually a parody account. Yeah, it's a parody. Do you have to say parody in here? It doesn't say it. Clinton Harris 2024, IQ 169, board certified astrologist. All right. So you can see, right? They're good tweets. And that one's pretty funny. It's pretty funny. It's a good tweeter. And so they actually posted a couple of hers. She said, Dr. Foster, IQ 169, Clinton Harris 2024, says, I'm a ballot counter in my state. If you're not wearing a mask, I'm not counting your vote, which, is pretty dang hilarious. It's pretty hilarious. And that probably happened. And Dr. Foster also said, for every negative comment on this post, I'm adding another vote for the Democrats. All right. So it's like a joke, right? It's kind of funny. But that's what she's got floating around out there. And the FBI, holy crap, they can't take that stuff. Here's what they wrote. They wrote, hello, Twitter contacts, since we have so many of you. Don't even need to address you by the first name. It's just like an entire list. They say FBI San Francisco is notifying you that the below account activities which may potentially constitute violation of terms or inaction within Twitter policy are now available. Catherine is the person who responded here. So they send this over, and you can see it's signed off. The header at the bottom there says Private Sector Engagement Squad, FBI San Francisco. And they're flagging a bunch of people. They've got Twitter user with display name Ultra MAGA. He got nuked. Americans vote today is the tweet. Democrats, you vote Wednesday the 9th. Nuked. Twitter account Claire Foster, who we just read, claims in her post that she's a ballot counter, and for every negative comment, she's adding another vote, right? And so both of those are jokes. Both of those, the very intelligent FBI agents were out there digging in to make sure that there was no election misinformation. That's what we're paying for, right? So Taibbi says, anyone who cannot discern, this is what Claire responded with. Claire said, anyone who cannot discern obvious satire from reality has no place making decisions or working for the feds. Of the 6 accounts mentioned, all but 2, Claire Foster and From MA, were suspended. An internal email from November 5th, the FBI's National Command Post, that joke of a thing, which compiles and sends on the complaints, it sent the San Francisco field office a long list of accounts that they say may warrant additional action, right? Here's a pretty big one. Let's open this one. Big email here And we're going to open this image. It's not opening. All right, well, we'll read it here. It says ASAC Chan. This one came out November 8th, 12:56, November 6th. Request for coordination with Twitter. ASAC Chan is being written this letter from the National Election Command Post, the NECP. It's requesting the assistance from San Francisco regarding coordination with Twitter. Specifically, the command post has been made aware of tweets by certain accounts that may warrant additional action due to the accounts being utilized to spread misinformation about the upcoming election. Specifically, the command post is requesting the following. Right? That's what they say to ASAC Chan, who's an FBI agent who works in San Francisco and is a liaison to all the big tech platforms. Says, this is what we want. One FBI agent to another FBI agent. We want coordination between San Francisco and Twitter to determine whether the accounts identified violated the terms of service and should be removed. They also want the issuance of preservation letters regarding the accounts identified below. Wow. In order to preserve subscriber information and content pending the issuance of legal process. Wow. So that means they're saying, look, not only do we want you to nuke those accounts, we want to know who they are, everything. We want their whole file, essentially, because we're going to potentially prosecute them. It's a preservation letter, just like we send to prosecutors. Don't delete all your stuff. Don't delete the video files. Keep it. Which means that they want to be using this for legal purposes. Any location information associated with the accounts that Twitter will voluntarily provide to the FBI in assigning any follow-up deemed necessary to the appropriate FBI field office. Wow. So in other words, they're asking for the entire dossier. They want contact information, location data, any location information associated with these guys so that they can go monitor them. And look who's on here. We've got Dartful Codger, Dr. Andrew Jackson. We've got Right Side Broadcasting Networks on here. Gene Gray. We've got Tiburon 11. A lot of names on here. All. The FBI wants their entire file, the entire dossier, brought over to them so that they can investigate them for whatever. Agent Chan got that email and he passed it on to his Twitter folks. Very, 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 very comfy relationship there. It says on November 6th, hello, Twitter folks, from Elvis Chan. He is the assistant special agent in charge of the cyber branch. And his pronouns, in case you were wondering, are listed at the bottom of his FBI signature line. It says that, who's calling me? It's Mr. Chan's pronouns are he, him, and his, which is a very important thing when you're in the FBI because it's a very diverse agency now. They've got a lot of people in there and they're making sure that you know the pronouns. All right. So he says, hello, Twitter folks. Please see below for a list of Twitter accounts which we believe are violating your terms by disseminating false information about the time, place, manner of the upcoming elections. Let us know if you decide to take action against these accounts based on our tipper to you, which was another FBI agent. It's not a tip, it's FBI. And this guy's, forwarding it along. He says, also, let us know if we need to issue a preservation letter as we intend to serve legal process for these accounts. Thanks for your consideration. They're going to prosecute these guys, or they're going to get their files and see what their DMs look like or what they're looking into. This is the government. It's just, it's so disgusting. I can't even tell you. And Twitter is just communicating with them. It makes my blood boil. All right. So Twitter then replied. Here's what they said, right? The government can send whatever they want, but Twitter responded. Here's what Twitter did, because we have to ask ourselves, is this state action? Is the FBI putting the pressure on the private company such that it implicates the government as an actor? Obviously it does. Let's see what Twitter did. They say, hi, Elvis Chan. He, him, there says, thank you for your patience as our team assessed the accounts that you flagged. He says, we've completed our review and taken action on the following accounts. Permanently suspended for policy violations like ban evasion, platform manipulation, excessive misinformation strikes, right? They've got, 6 accounts right here, 7 accounts. Temporarily suspended was David Cloy, and had tweets bounce for civic misinformation were all of the other ones. In regards to your question about a preservation letter, it is a good way to ensure that the data hasn't been purged from our systems before legal process is filed and processed. Externally, the contact for submitting those is the same. Thank you, says Patrick. Okay, this is copying Yoel Roth. Look who's on there. Tuesday, November 8th. Was that election day? Oh, yeah, it was election day. Weird. So you're saying that Twitter was banning people from the platform literally on election day at the suggestion of the FBI. Yoel Roth knew all about it. All of these other FBI agents are all doing the same thing. They're all in on this. They are literally censoring speech, right, on the day of the election. And it's one of the most reprehensible things that I think you can imagine in this country. It's disgusting because it's interfering with the entire process. Now, I think every one of these FBI agents should be investigated and prosecuted if they contributed to this. There's a law called 18 U.S. Code Section 241. It's called conspiracy against rights. If two or more persons conspire to oppress or intimidate any person in the free exercise or the enjoyment of their right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or the laws, then they shall be fined and imprisoned for not more than 10 years. U.S. Code 18, Section 241. Conspiracy against rights. This is state action. This is depriving people privileges guaranteed to them under the Constitution, which is their free speech rights under the First Amendment, which we've already talked about. Several people are conspiring to threaten and oppress all of the individuals in this conversation from Matt Taibbi, and every one of those FBI agents should be investigated, every single one of these people, and prosecuted if the law fits. Because what's happening here is on election day, they are coming up with reasons. Twitter didn't identify these people. Twitter didn't look for these people and their algos didn't find this stuff. No, the FBI did. But for the FBI, if the FBI had not sent these emails, these people would still be on Twitter on election day. And that is the absolute censorship, silencing, oppression of First Amendment rights in this country. Now, many of the above accounts were satirical. Nearly all, with the exception of Baldwin and Right Side Broadcasting, were relatively low engagement, and some were suspended, most with a generic thanks Twitter letter, right? They weren't even saying anything, it sounds like, that was even bad or interesting. I don't care. It's the FBI censoring and shutting people up. Says the following. This is the letter they got. Hi, we're writing to let you know we reviewed your appeal. Attempted voter suppression, voter intimidation is unlawful, and you are now deleted. So those people had their voice boxes ripped out of their mouths, not by Twitter, by the FBI, by FBI agents. Matt says, when I told of the FBI flagging, Lexi Tola, who's worth a follow, I'm sure, got suspended. Says, my thoughts initially include, 1, seems like a prima facie case of First Amendment violation. Yeah. And holy cow, me, an account that with the reach of an amoeba, what else are they looking at? What else are they looking at? What else are they looking at? Right? Their eyeballs are so magnified that they can see even small accounts. Tiberius said, I can't believe the FBI is policing jokes on Twitter. That's crazy, says Tiberius. Yeah, it is crazy. In a letter to former Deputy General Counsel and former top FBI lawyer, Jim Baker, remember him? Jim Baker was the Sussman saga, the guy who got a bunch of information from Michael Sussman, who sat down with Jim Baker when he was trying to sell the Russian collusion hoax from Hillary's campaign back in 2016. Total liar, and he has been dishonest, thrown out of the FBI, went over to Twitter, was dishonest there, and got thrown out of there. So hopefully he keeps his Harvard teaching job because that's about the only thing he has left. He fits in perfectly there. On September 16th, 2022, he got a letter. Legal executive Stacia Cardile outlines results from her, quote, soon-to-be weekly meeting with the DHS, DOJ, FBI, and the ODNI, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, a bunch of bureaucrats. Here's the letter. To Jim Baker from Stacia, September 16th. She says, oh, hey, Jim. Please see below for a summary of our election-related work that I completed today. It's a lot of work. This looks nice, nicely formatted. She put a lot of work in there. Shout out to Stacia. Her censorship of American freedoms looks great. It's nicely formatted. Says, 1, government industry sync. I participated in our monthly, soon-to-be weekly, 90-minute call with the FBI, DOJ, DHS, ODNI, and industry partners on election threats. A few items to note. 1, foreign adversaries are amplifying themes being advanced by domestic actors to undermine the legitimacy of the election. Foreign adversaries are amplifying themes advanced by domestic actors. What does that mean? Oh, it means that the domestic actors are the source. They're saying the things, and the foreign adversaries are amplifying them. So that means we better shut up all of the domestic actors, which means you and me. Stacia says, I explicitly asked if there were any impediments with the ability of the government to share classified information or other relevant information with the industry. FBI was adamant that no impediments to information sharing exist. No free speech implications. We're definitely not a state actor. Okay, there are lawyers in the government that went through this analysis, I'm sure of it, right? There have to be. That said, oh, no, here's a memo. We're not state actors. Give them whatever you want. FBI, we're just sending them information. Twitter decides what to do with it. That's the decision, right? We can't be putting pressure on them. We're not dominating them, legally speaking, if all they're doing is just acting on our recommendations. It's just like, they have great burgers down there at that restaurant. You should go have one. If you go and have that burger, I didn't dominate you to do it. Now, if I am the FBI and I have a gun to your head and I have the whole weight of the federal government at my back and I say, they're pretty good burgers over there, you should go have one. Like right now, or else. If you don't do it, I'm going to see you next week and I'm going to ask about the burger again. And if you haven't had the burger again, I'm going to be very upset with you because it's that good, right? It's nuts. So they're going to be leaning on Twitter over and over weekly now on a weekly basis. And they're going to be putting the strong arm of the government on their necks. And they're going to say that there's no impediment. I asked if the U.S. government was tracking if foreign threats, long silence. The government is not tracking foreign interference or threats related to down ballot races. So they only care about up races, I guess. Certain races that are at the top of the ballot. Yeah. This is September 16, 2020. This is just great. Yeah. They don't give a crap about any other race at all. Senate, House, no concern. I asked if the U.S. government was tracking foreign threats related to non-presidential races. Long silence. No, they're not tracking anything. They don't care about anything other than keeping Trump out of office. That's it. DHS has created a chart of the key dates in the election process at the state level. They're confirming information with the states this week and should get us a summary soon. Policy tweeted about the meeting without legal review. As the only Twitter representative to speak, I raised my disappointment in the lack of involvement directly to comms. It was a missed opportunity. They've got Project Heron. Says, I met with legal to discuss intervention under consideration about labeling election results. I raised concerns about the feasibility of this. All this is going to Jim Baker. So was he at the FBI at that time? Former Deputy General Counsel Jim Baker. No, he's at Twitter at this point. But why does this say FBI up here? No. So he might still actually be at the FBI. This is confusing because he left at some point. So this says it's at he's with the FBI. So I'm presuming that he's still with the FBI at this point. So they talk about civic integrity labeling. They talk about account security upgrades. Over 2,300 high-risk politicians are going to be prompted to update their security settings. I work closely with Matthew on additional edits. And there's a whole list of action items, right? All of this is direct interfacing with the FBI. Matt says the Twitter executive writes that she explicitly asked if there were impediments. The answer, no impediments to sharing. And this passage, says Matt, underscores the unique one big happy family vibe between Twitter and the FBI. Hey, Twitter friends. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Happy holidays. Good morning. Good Christmas. Whatever. Right? They're colluding with each other. With what other firm would the FBI blithely agree no impediments to classified information, right? You just give it to you guys? Hand over fist? Yeah, because you're doing their job. You're doing exactly what they want, which is to maintain their power. Matt says at the bottom of the letter, she lists a series of escalations raised, which are apparently all handled. And about one of them, she says, we flagged a specific tweet on Illinois and the use of modems to transmit election results in possible violation of the civic integrity policy. Except they do use that tech in limited circumstances. So we flagged it, but they kind of do use it. Another internal letter from January shows Twitter execs processing an FBI list of possible violative content tweets. Here's this email thread. January 5th, 2021. Very interesting, another interesting date here. At 2:26, the day before January 6th, obviously, says you've been added as a participant. So UE@twitter.com, unified escalations. Report by the FBI on possible violative content. You've been added as a participant. All of these tweets should go. BMW Yates. Me's Please has to go. Loney Reader. All of them. And you can track your ticket here. It's just like you're going and submitting a support request. Here, most of the tweets contain the same get out of here and vote type of trope, and they had low engagement. This is what the FBI spends their times on. Okay, so underscore BMW Yates is here. He says, this is our future, guys. If the Dems get full control, if you're in Georgia, you better vote on Wednesday. Right? It's another joke. That's what the FBI is flagging for Twitter. In this March 2021 email, an FBI liaison thanks a senior Twitter exec for the chance to, quote, to speak to you and the team, and then delivers a packet of products. So from somebody at FBI.gov, dated Wednesday, March 3rd, to Stacia, who we've already heard from, it says, hi, Stacia. It was great speaking with you and the team at Twitter last week. Huh. Another FBI agent speaking with another Twitter team. Seems like more government involvement. They tell us that I wanted to flag a few products that were released today and earlier in the week that may be of assistance to Twitter. Let us know if you have any questions. What kind of products were those? Matt Taibbi tells us, he continues, he says, the executive circulates the, quote, products, which are really Department of Homeland Security bulletins, stressing the need for greater collaboration between law enforcement and their, quote, private sector partners. Need a lot more feds interfering in Twitter. Stacia from Stacia on March 3rd to a bunch of people. Jim Baker's on there. Yoel Roth is on there. And Patrick Longcon, the Conlon, says, see the products of the FBI office sector just provided to us. Please feel free to share with your teams. Here's what we've got. Russian malign influence, use of permissive social media platforms. We've got a heightened domestic violent extremist threat. They say it's going to persist in 2021. And they've got Iranian influence efforts, primarily use online tools to target U.S. audiences, remain easily detectable for now. Thanks, Stacia. Right? And as we know, all of these foreign influence all they're doing is amplifying U.S. or private citizens' conversations from a prior thread we saw. Taibbi says, the ubiquity of the 2016 Russian interference story as stated is a pretext for building out the censorship machine. He says this cannot be overstated. It's analogous to how 9/11 inspired the expansion of the security state. So 9/11 happens, we get the Patriot Act. We get the entire apparatus that robbed us of our civil liberties then. Now, in 2016, because Donald Trump won, everybody freaked out right after the election. Facebook, Twitter, everybody came up with their new election integrity policies. And this was used, 2016 Russian interference, which was really a non-story, right? It was basically nothing. Inconsequential. But that was the excuse. And now it's analogous now to 9/11. It created the censorship machine. Here's what they posted in one of those analyses. They said, we assess that Russian malign influencers probably will increasingly use U.S. social media platforms that offer more permissive operating environments. We base this assessment on the reduced effectiveness of Russian influence operations. Our assessment is also based at their operational. Yeah, it's just, there's nothing, they don't say anything. It's just a joke. All right. So it's just the scapegoat that they're going to constantly use to beat us over the head, just like terrorists, right? Just like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Oh my gosh, they're going to kill us all to death. They're going to blow up the whole country. Yeah, just like the Russians are. Yeah, they don't even know what they're doing. Russian influencers probably will increase. Okay, well, they probably will not too. So Matt says, while the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, in its, quote, products, pans permissive social media for offering operational advantages to Russians, it also explains that the domestic violent extremist threat requires addressing the information gaps. They say information gaps and challenges associated with individualized nature of radicalization could be partially mitigated with increased collaboration between law enforcement, terrorism prevention efforts, and private sector partners. So if they can get in there, then they can stop, I guess, all of the fake governor kidnapping hoaxes that they were highly involved in. If the FBI really wanted to stop this stuff, they could just stop being the FBI, and most of this would go away. We judge these partnerships would improve our ability to detect changes in DVE trends and provide domestic violent extremist trends and provide early warning of potential attacks, right? They've got to come in here now. Otherwise, we're all going to die. Do you want early warning or do you want late warning? I mean, do you want to be told like, oh, a bomb went off in your neighborhood after it went off? No. What kind of person are you? So we better get early warning. And how do we do that? By censoring the terrorists. Matt says FBI in one case sent over so many possible violative content reports that Twitter personnel congratulated each other in the Slack for the monumental undertaking of reviewing them. Slack channel Blue says, at 1729, he says, anyone need help reviewing the tweets forwarded an FBI report on violative content? +1, we can help on the SI, says Red. And they say, thank you all so much for your help, says Purple, a monumental undertaking. Because the FBI is censoring so much crap for them. Matt says there were multiple points of entry into the Twitter for government flagged reports. This letter from Agent Chan Elvis to Yoel Roth references Teleporter. This is a platform through which Twitter could receive reports from the FBI. Another one from Elvis. He says, hi, Twitter folks. I just got something hot off the press today. You must be excited. Please be on the lookout for a Teleporter message from me with 2 documents to download. Thanks. From Elvis Chan to, no, this is from Elvis Chan to Yoel Roth, FBI.gov. From Yoel Roth back to Elvis Chan, received. Got it. Yoel Roth, the head of trust and safety, got it, confirming it. Reports also came from different agencies. Here's an employee who recommends bouncing content based on evidence, quote, from DHS, etc. On a Slack message, Green writes, resharing this as it doesn't look like they were actioned yesterday. Given the evidence we received from DHS, etc., I'd lean towards batting the URL and bouncing the videos, to be honest, given the accusations, but relatively, he puts in quotes, low visibility. So DHS is sending info, FBI is sending info. State governments also flagged content. We know the Biden campaign flagged content. We know Katie Hobbs flagged content. Twitter, for instance, received reports via the partner support portal, an outlet created by the Center for Internet Security, a partner of DHS. Twitter execs received an alert from California officials by way of our partner support portal, and they debate whether to act. Donald Trump posted this. He says, California hired a pure Sleepy Joe Democrat firm to count votes. No way Republicans. He says, California's in trouble. Vote Trump. Watch the biggest comeback. Also, New York and Illinois, go for it. Posted that October 13th, right? And all of that is now being debated in Twitter in their thread. They said, all right, well, here's what our handbook says. The jurisdiction says this. They're requesting feedback on the tweet, and they want to know, right? Somebody sent this in. From our voting law compliance handbook, public observation, the SOS, I have pasted their ask below. They want to know, they're requesting why Twitter didn't take any action. Okay, so the government censors send this over to Twitter. Twitter doesn't do anything, and they say, why not? And they describe the rest of the process about balloting. To clarify, is their ask for Twitter to review or to explain why no action was taken upon a previous review? They say why no action was taken. The report came in through our partner support portal. Right? So they submitted this ticket like, oh, this is going to be deleted. It wasn't deleted. And so they're saying, why wasn't it deleted? We are in charge. I mean, we're the politicians here. A video was reported to the Election Integrity Project, which they just created, at Stanford, apparently on the strength of information from the Center for Internet Security. So Stanford also created their own project. Everybody created these entities to make sure we have election integrity because they lost the election. So this is a long, very legally heavy video, but essentially it claims that election workers opened something and did problems. So how do we handle this? And they say, well, CISA or CIS, the cyber intelligence, whatever, the law doesn't prohibit curing and all of this other stuff, right? So they're debating it. They're taking data in from outside sources. If that's confusing, it's because it is, right? It is confusing. It's because the CIS is a DHS contractor, describes itself as partners with the CISA agency. So CIS is this fake thing. No. Yeah, so EIP is from Stanford. CIS is the Center for Internet Security. Okay, so it's all these agencies. If that's confusing, it should be. CIS contracts with DHS. DHS is partners with CISA. So they have all of these different layers, right? Everybody can report. You can report on basically anything they tell you how to report. Report at CISA Security, CISsecurity.org. verify the information, and so on. Matt says the EIP is one of a series of government-affiliated think tanks that mass review content at Stanford. A list that also includes the Atlantic Council's Forensic Digital Laboratory, the University of Washington Center for Informed Policy, and so on. What Matt says in concluding, he says the takeaway for us all, what most people think of as, quote, the deep state is really a tangled collaboration of state agencies, private contractors, and sometimes state-funded NGOs. The lines become so blurred as to be meaningless. Yeah, it's all just one disgusting swamp. That's why the word swamp is used, because it's disgusting. And they're all just in this big dog pile of wrecking America. Taibbi says Twitter files researchers are moving into a variety of new areas now. Watch Barry Weiss, watch Schellenberger about this space. More coming in soon. So that's Matt Taibbi, and that is Twitter Files 6. And boy, there is a lot to unpack there. And there were other people who are asking questions about this, right? If the states are censoring information to Katie Hobbs, does your office report this person, Dr. Andrew Jackson, to the FBI? Who's reporting all these people? How far does this state action go? What politicians were involved in this? Who was requesting it? What different political parties? What different secretaries of state, governors, their offices? And who was interfering with our rights? Which of these people were conspiring against the rights in violation of U.S. Code 18241? Says that if two or more people conspire to injure or oppress the enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to us by the Constitution, they shall be fined and imprisoned for 10 years. And I think if we had an actual country where people actually cared about the Constitution with actual prosecutors and politicians, there would be some repercussions. But we'll continue to hold our breath as this story continues to unfold. We know there will be many more Twitter files, and we'll continue to cover them. I hope you join us as we do. Thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends. And so that is it for us on the show. We covered some good ground today. The Elon Musk massacre that took place on Twitter, as well as Twitter Files 6, the FBI's subsidiary, which, of course, we've all speculated was the case for a long time. But now, my friends, it is time to hear from you and to see what you have to say about all of this and more. And so let's jump right into it from our friends on... Did any super chats come in today? I don't think that any did. Let's do a quick refresh on this and see if we have any stories to get to, any tweets. Otherwise, we'll do a quick wrap up. I'm going to go over to Newsmax in about 40 minutes and talk with Greg Kelly, who is going to be probably asking questions about the Twitter files. So we're going to go do that here in a minute. Let's see if we had any super chats here today. We did. We had a couple come in. Thank you, everybody, for those. I think I missed those. I was probably so agitated by the stories. But here is our first one from Mark Owens. Mark Owens says 2024 is for the complacent compliance. A lot of that going on. Everybody's just sort of okay being trampled on. And they're very okay with that. We have Hell Pikes in the... Thank you for that, Mark Owens. Yeah, a lot of complacency. We had this one from Hell Pike. He says, this is happening because we have cowards in the government, afraid of their own people. We shouldn't need the permission or wait until people like Jack Dorsey realize the importance of free speech so we can have it. I'm with you on that, Hell Pike. Now, I don't know what else to do about it other than get out here and pound the table. But I do think that there are a lot of cowards in the government, and they're afraid of their own shadow. They're trying to take our rights away because they're scared of reality or because they just want more power. Anyways, I do think that we need more people to pound the table. This is the issue of our time. And what Elon has done has really pulled back the veil. And there's a lot more to come, I'm sure of it. American Patriot says Dr. Jackson is a U.S. representative, former Trump Jr. A former Trump doctor. Oh, I didn't know that. He got nuked? Wow. Is there a statute of limitations on 18? Yeah, I'm sure there is. I don't know what it is. 7 years, 10 years? I'd have to look it up. They change for the federal stuff. But this happened. A lot of this happened in 2022. So I think it's well within the SOL. We also had Just Cause. He says, plug Kraken the Box Terminally Ill Kid. Sub, please. Kraken the Box Terminally Ill Kid. Is that the name of the channel? All right, let's do this right. Let's pull it up here right. Kraken the Box. I've seen some tweets and stuff about this, but I don't know the details, and so I don't want to talk out of turn. But there's a young boy, I believe, young man who is building a YouTube channel, and we want to support him doing that. So let's pull up the channel. Thank you for the reminder or for the shout out. And YouTube is not giving me what I want. Here it is. All right, my friends. Yes. So we're all going to go and do this together. Why don't we all go over here to youtube.com at Kraken the Box right here at Kraken the Box. This looks like some really, really great content. Look at this kid. Look at these thumbnails. These are perfect. All right. So we're all going to go do this right now. Put that in your browser, go onto your YouTube channel, do whatever you do. Look, I have not done this. We're going to do this together right now. We're going to click that button right there. Boom. Subscribe. Boom. Love that, right? It feels good. And he's going to be over 200,000 soon. Woo, woo. That's good stuff for him. So shout out to Kraken the Box. He's unboxing stuff. All right. So we're going to have to watch that later. And shout out to Kraken the Box and everybody supporting his channel. Hopefully you went over there and hit that button. All right. And so thank you to my friends on the YouTube who sent those in. I just saw another one come in from a couple other people. We had one from K Bean is in the house. Shout out to K Bean. Says, thank you, K Bean. Thank you for being here. K Bean's always here, mon down the fort. Such an awesome part of the show. K Bean, thank you. Really, I really do appreciate you being here all the time. I love seeing you on Locals and seeing you in the chat. I'm grateful for you. And it's been a busy week. We have Star Ali Mistrial says, all the best to you, Rob. Great informational analysis. Well, thank you, Star. Star Ali Mistrial is in the house. Thank you for that one, Star. Yeah, there's a lot of these Twitter files, man, and they make my blood boil. I don't know about you guys. I think they do as well, but I can't believe that this thing sort of is not, every single Republican in this country, every single senator, every single House of Representative individual. I mean, shouldn't they all be pounding the table like lunatics right now? We'll see if they do, because this is the total corruption of the FBI, of the law enforcement, federal officials, literally censoring Americans with emails and messages day after day. So pretty horrific stuff. We also had Ray K. He says, looking like Elvis Costello, Rob. Is that for me? Let's see who that is. Elvis Costello. Is that Elvis? Or who is Elvis Costello? This guy. Who's looking like this guy? Is this who you're talking about? I don't even know who that is. That's from Ray K. I don't know who Elvis Costello is, but thank you for that one, Ray K. I just looked him up. I never heard of the guy. All right, let's do a quick refresh over here before we wrap it up on the day, my friends. We're going to jump over to Locals for just a short minute. And thank you, Ray K, for sending that one in. All right, my friends. And so that is it for us on the day. And we're going to jump over to Locals for just a quick minute, and then I got to set up for the next, doing a quick interview. Yeah, the Greg Kelly team reached out, and they said, hey, can you come on and do an interview? And I said, sure, let's do it. So we're going to do that tonight, and we were both, didn't know what to talk about because the Elon files were probably going to drop. So we'll see how that goes since it's breaking news. But we're going to head on over there in a minute. Before we jump out, I want to say thank you to our friends at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We're going to be right over there in just a quick minute. But before we jump out of here, thank you to the sponsors of the show. Of course, thank you to our friends over at 4Patriots. If you're looking for last-minute Christmas gifts, head over to 4Patriots.com. Use promo code Robert to get 10% off anything in the store on your first purchase. And also, shout out to our law firm. We have a lot of cool stuff coming in 2023. We're working hard on some new projects, actually. Spent some time on that today. We are very passionate about the work that we do. We're getting together on Monday to do a full 2023 planning. We've got, a big vision for the next year. And so I appreciate your support. We have a lot of fun here on this channel, but at our law firm, we really do some hard work and heavy lifting where we help good people charged with crimes. And so if you happen to know anybody in the state of Arizona who is charged with a crime, 480-787-0394. rrlawaz.com is the address, and we will do everything we can to help. And we're good at what we do. We have a lot of success. So we can help with any type of traffic offense, drug crime, felony offense, misdemeanor, DUIs, all of it. And we just try to help good people get things back on track. Thank you to our mods who modded down the fort for the week for us. Big shout outs to Vientikis Prime, over to K Bean. Thank you to K Bean. We also have Just Cause. We've got Lean in the house. What's up, Lean? We've got Playing Hooky, along with Ronnie Cole, Zulu. Geomancy comes by from time to time, and it's good to have the mod crew modding down the fort for us. But that, my friends, is it for us on the week. We will be back here on Monday to do the show all again. If you want to catch some member-only live streams, join up on the YouTube membership, join up on watchingthewatchers.locals.com so that we can continue our conversation. Otherwise, I'll look forward to seeing you right back here on Monday so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Have a tremendous evening, my friends. Locals, I'll be right back after a short message from this black screen. Have a tremendous evening, my friends. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.